Hi guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm Inevitable, and this is the Calm Face Violent Ambition podcast, where I'll be talking about literally anything that sparks my interest and sharing my perspective on it. Thanks once again for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the video. So today we're going to talk about God as Father and what divine parenthood teaches us about identity, love, and responsibility. Alright? So if you think about God as your Father, who do we typically think about? We think about the God of the Bible. We think about God being our protector, our leader, our provider in our lives. So I'm just going to be using that imagery in this video. And I've got a few notes written down here that I'll be reading out to you. And if this relates to you in any way, I'd really love for you to share your comments and thoughts in the comment section. As like I mentioned in all my videos, it does add to the conversation, and I really would appreciate the feedback. All right, so let's dive in. When we call God Father, we're not just using a title. We're invoking a relationship that is both intimate and transformative. Fatherhood carries meaning, protection, provision, discipline, and love. Divine parenthood teaches us that God is not distant but deeply involved in shaping, guiding, and caring for us. Just as a father nurtures his children, God's fatherhood reveals both tenderness and strength. Understanding God as Father reshapes how we see ourselves, not as isolated beings, but as children of a divine parent who calls us into maturity, responsibility, and love. It challenges us to rethink identity, to embrace belonging, and to live with the assurance that we are cared for. Alright, so I've broken down God as Father. What divine parenthood teaches us about identity, love, and responsibility. And I've broken this insight down into 4 different sections like I do in all my videos. And what I'll be doing is I have some practical steps that I use in my daily life that I'll be mentioning at the end of those 4 sections as well. So, all right, we're diving into section 1 right now, and it's called Fatherhood as Protection. Protection is one of the most instinctive aspects of fatherhood. A father shields his children from harm, guiding them through danger and uncertainty. In the same way, God's fatherhood is a covering, a promise that we are not alone in the storms of life. His presence reframes fear into courage, reminding us that protection is not about removing challenges, but about walking with us through them. Point number 1. God's protection is active, not passive. It does not simply watch from a distance, but steps into our circumstances, defending us against chaos and guiding us through uncertainty. Point number 2. His presence transforms fear into courage. Fear may not vanish, but it loses its power when we know we are not alone. Point number 3. Scripture often describes God as a refuge and fortress, emphasizing his role as protector. These images remind us that his fatherhood is a place of safety and strength. For example, a child walking through a dark place, holding their father's hand. The fear doesn't disappear, but the presence of the father changes everything. So God as Father teaches us that protection is not the absence of struggle. It is the presence of care in the midst of it. His fatherhood assures us that we are never abandoned, and that even in the darkest places, His hand is there to guide us forward. Alright, so I'd really love to hear your thoughts on section 1, fatherhood as protection, and you can just leave them there in the comments, and I assure you I will read through each and every one of your comments. Thank you so much. Alright, so we're diving into section 2, fatherhood as provision. Provision is more than survival. It is the assurance that someone cares enough to prepare for you. A father provides for his children's needs, ensuring they have food, shelter, and guidance. God's fatherhood mirrors this, offering not only material provision but spiritual nourishment. Divine provision reminds us that we are cared for, even when resources seem scarce, and that abundance flows from love, not just from wealth. Point number 1. God's provision sustains us in both material and spiritual dimensions. He provides food for the body and wisdom for the soul, meeting needs we may not even recognize. Point number 2. Provision anticipates needs before they arise. Just as a father prepares meals before his children realize they are hungry, God's provision often arrives before we even ask. Point number 3. His care is proactive, not reactive. It flows from foresight and love, ensuring that we are sustained even in seasons of scarcity. Now we reflect on this. Provision is love expressed through foresight and generosity, reminding us that we are never forgotten. So God as Father teaches us that provision is more than survival. It is abundance rooted in love, reminding us that we are sustained by His care. His provision flows from a love that knows our needs before we even speak them. Alright, so that was section 2, and that was fatherhood as provision, and how we have come to the understanding of God being this leader, this provider, this all-knowing, majestic being that knows our needs before we even speak them. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. You can just let me know in the comments. And once again, I do assure you I will read through each and every one of your comments. Thank you so much. Okay, we're diving into section 3, fatherhood as discipline. Discipline is often misunderstood as punishment, but in truth, it is guidance. A loving father corrects his children, not to harm them, but to help them grow into maturity. God's discipline is the same. It shapes us, refines us, and calls us into responsibility. Divine discipline is not rejection. It is evidence of belonging. Correction is proof that we are loved enough to be guided. Point number 1. God's discipline is evidence of belonging, not rejection. It shows us that we are His children, cared for enough to be corrected. Point number 2. Correction is proof of love. A father who ignores his children's mistakes does not truly care. Discipline is the act of love that seeks growth. And here's an example. Just as a father teaches his child not to touch fire, God's discipline protects us from harm and directs us forward toward wisdom. Discipline is purposeful love. It shapes us into who we are meant to be, reminding us that growth requires correction. So God as Father teaches us that discipline is not cruelty. It is care that shapes us into who we are meant to be. It is love expressed through guidance, reminding us that growth requires correction, and correction is a sign of belonging. So that was section 3, fatherhood as discipline. How, when we step out of line, are we to be corrected and to acknowledge that we've stepped out of line by being, I don't want to say punished, because punished has a word, has a bad connotation towards it, but essentially reprimanded. Are we to be reprimanded for stepping out of line? For doing something we know we're not supposed to do? For doing something that we know we are not supposed to do? Leave your comments in the comment section, and I'll definitely read through them. Alright, so we're coming into the last section right now. The last but not the least. Fatherhood as love. Love is the essence of fatherhood, the thread that ties protection, provision, and discipline together. At its core, fatherhood is love expressed through presence, sacrifice, and commitment. God's fatherhood is the ultimate model of unconditional love. Divine love is not earned, it is given freely, reminding us of our worth and identity as children. Without love, protection becomes control, provision becomes obligation, and discipline becomes harshness. Point number 1. God's love is unconditional, reminding us of our worth and identity as His children. It is not based on performance, but on relationship. Love is the foundation of fatherhood. Without it, the other roles lose meaning. Protection, provision, and discipline only make sense when rooted in love. For example, a father who sacrifices his own comfort for his child mirrors the divine love that gives without condition. Love is the heartbeat of fatherhood, and it is through love that we understand God most fully. So, God as Father teaches us that love is the essence of divine parenthood, the bond that holds everything together, the truth that defines our identity. Love is the heartbeat of fatherhood, and it is through love that we understand God most fully. So that was section 4, Fatherhood as Love, and how love ties provision, discipline, and protection all together, and that without love, these three things are futile, and how important love is. What do you think about that? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Alright, so as promised, I have provided practical steps on how this insight can be integrated into your life. And yeah, let's get into it. So, point number 1, practical step number 1, reflect daily on God's fatherhood. Ask yourself, where have I experienced His protection, provision, discipline, and love? Point number 2, anchor your identity in being a child of God, not in external achievements or failures. Point number 3, practice fatherhood in your own relationships, whether as a parent, mentor, or friend, by embodying protection, provision, discipline, and love. This point would obviously go towards a man, a male, you know. Uh, I know I have some females that listen to my podcast as well, but I believe at this, I mean, I don't see how a female could be a father, but like I mentioned, this point would obviously go towards a male. Point number 4, pray with the awareness of speaking to a father, not a distant force. Let intimacy shape your spiritual practice. And then point number 5, extend divine parenthood outward. Care for others as God cares for you, modeling fatherhood in community. By living out these steps, you begin to embody the lessons of divine parenthood. You move from simply knowing God as Father to experiencing His fatherhood in daily life. And as you do, you not only grow in maturity, you also become a reflection of that fatherhood to others, offering protection, provision, discipline, and love in your own sphere of influence. So I'll leave you with this reflection. What does God's fatherhood mean to you? And how can you embody divine parenthood in your life? Think about it, share it, and let's explore together how seeing God as Father transforms our identity and relationships. And I'd love to hear your perspective. Drop your thoughts in the comments. How do you see God's fatherhood shaping your life? Your insight adds to the conversation, like I mentioned, and together I know we can build a deep understanding of divine parenthood and what it means to us. All right? So I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch my video. And if you enjoyed my insight, go ahead and leave me a like. And if you're interested in hearing more about what I have to share on this channel, then you can subscribe as well. And once again, I am inevitable, and this is the Calm Face Violent Ambition podcast. Have a wonderful rest of your day.